Hello everyone, it's Old Guardian here. Warcraft Rumble released around a year and a half ago, and in this video I'm going to go through all the content that has been released for Warcraft Rumble since launch, look a little bit into statistics on how much content Blizzard is releasing for the game, and maybe speculate a little bit about the future. So for example, if you're considering returning to Warcraft Rumble, with this video you can check out, okay, where did you leave and what has been released since. So let's start by taking a look at a season-by-season timeline. There was the soft launch and a couple of beta seasons before the global launch, but we begin our tale from season number 1. Season number 1 started on 28 October, a few days before the global launch. Actually, global launch was on 3rd November 2023. And the content we got for season 1 was Sylvanas Windrunner Mini, and that was it. Then Season 2 arrived on 10 December 2023. Rumble seasons are 6 weeks long. That has been consistent throughout this period of time. And in Season 2 we got the Chimera and the Arathi base in PvP map. So actually we didn't get much in Season 2 either. And yeah, Rumble really got off to a slow start, because then we had Season 3 starting on 21st January 2024, and we got the Emperor Taurus and Leader. They added enchants to PvP, so collateral damage and these types of modifiers were added then. PvP maps started to be randomized for each game, so before that we had the same map for the entire season. And the first balance change for the game, Safe Pilot, was nerfed. And that's all for Season 3. And Season 4 was not much better. Starting from March 6, 2024, we got the Witch Doctor. They improved the daily rewards a little bit, and they improved the XP gems for early and mid collection levels. So the first 4 seasons were quite a disaster. After 5.5 months, Rumble had received 4 minis and 1 PvP map. I don't even know what was going on. It does get a little bit better from here, so don't worry, we're going to get more content later on. But oh boy, did Rumble get just nothing for such a long time. Because it took until Season 5 that we got the first bit of content for Rumble. 17th April 2024 we got the Fairy Dragon, and Season 5 brought the first events with Darkmoor Fair and Blingtron's Bounties. They also made the XP grind a little bit easier with Quest XP multiplied by 2.5. PvP modifiers started to change every week instead of every other week, and they nerfed spell damage against barracks in PvP. So it was still not much, but it was something. Although the event implementation was very sketchy at this point. It did get better. Events are actually pretty well implemented nowadays. But even in April 2024, events arrived, and yeah, it was not great. Then finally the big season arrived, Season 6, starting from 29 May 2024. We got the Earth and Moon Mini, we got the Siege of Stormwind, the first co-op experience at the end of May. And then we got the Molten Core Raid, the main co-op experience in the game, which is still the main co-op experience in the game, and the Ragnaros Leader Mini, and we got that in early June. And other changes during that season, dungeon level cap was reduced from 30 to 23. People got stuck in dungeons and then they couldn't just progress anymore, and they couldn't beat any bosses, so they couldn't get any rewards. Now level 23 is repeatable for Arc Energy and Gold, which does mean that dungeons are kind of meaningless and pretty easy once you're a little bit higher, and they're just a grind. So upsides and downsides. There was some talk that maybe this will result in a better dungeon system eventually, but so far we haven't gotten that. But maybe we will still someday. Also, we got a couple of more balance changes with Wellbeck and Deep Breath nerfs in Season 6, so very sting with the balance changes at this point. PvP level caps for low honor were removed also in Season 6, so anyone can face anyone. It's just MMR that determines your opponent. But anyway, Season 6 finally brought co-op. Co-op was the main thing that Blizzard talked about at BlizzCon in November 2023, and 7 months later, co-op was actually added to the game. And I have to say the co-op is good, so was it worth waiting? I don't know if any of this has been worth waiting, because it's been a long wait. Man, but if it had launched with that co-op, then I think Rumble would have done much better. Season 7 started on 10th July 2024, and it brought the first new zone, Moonglade Zone, 5 new campaign missions, also the Cenarian family, Cenarius, Onu, Ancient of War, Bok Beast, and Moonkin. We got 5 minis all at once. And Blizzard also decided that they want to buff Molten Core, because Molten Core was apparently too easy, so then they made it harder. Which is something that you usually don't see like in World of Warcraft or anything. You beat progress content that it becomes easier, but here Molten Core has only been buffed multiple times. Season 8 started on 21st August 2024, and it was one of the low points of Rumble. I mean, we got the Dryad, so we got a new mini, we got the Skullman's Dungeon, but we got Skullman's Dungeon now that dungeons weren't very relevant content anymore, so all the development of Skullman's, yeah. If Skullman's had been released when dungeons were still relevant, it would have been much better received, but oh boy. And then we got the Gadget Bonanza, another small recurring event. We got the Rare-O-Matic, we got the Tinker's Gems, so stuff that you can apply on the grid to give more XP, give more stars to stuff that you buy from the grid. But then, first they broke the game, they destroyed lots of guest accounts during this season, and then there were major layoffs. The Rumble team lost around 25 people. At that point, still around 50, maybe a little bit more than 50 people remained in the team, but the team lost a lot of people. Which, however, did not show too much for players for Season 9. Season 9 starting on 2nd October 2024, and we got Ysera, we got Headless Horseman, we got Die Battling, so we got 3 new minis, we had a Hallows End event, core trading was introduced to the game, so if you had excess rare cores, you could trade them for epic cores, you could trade epic cores for legendary cores. They also finally got simultaneous event stack, so they could run more than one event at a time. Yes, that was mind-boggling advancement. This is still not the full event tech that they have in place nowadays, but slowly getting there. And they also released another small co-op feature with Siege of Ironforge. Season 10, which started 13th November 2024, was a pretty strong time for Rumble. They introduced time-limited leaders, time-limited split leaders that were really powerful, and used some fear of missing out in order to get players to spend money on them, and it worked for a while. Nowadays, all of these leaders are available freely on the grid for everybody, so they were time-limited only for a period of time, but, well, it did something and they were really powerful. They reworked Sylvanas Windrunner a little bit as a split leader. They released Eclipse and Treant, 2 new Cenarian minis, and then the 3 split leaders, Malfurion Stormrage, Anubarak, Ogrim Doomhammer, really powerful, really fun leaders as well as released the PC client on 10th of December. So that was a lot of stuff. Then Pilgrim's Bounty event, Wintervale event, and they again increased the quest XP, this time by plus 80%. So now it was 4.5 times the original XP that you could get at launch. And they also introduced open queue for sieges and raids. So you don't have to play with your guildmates, you don't have to arrange a time, you can just go into siege or raid, click join open queue, and boom, you get matched up with somebody random in seconds. Season 11 started on 25th December 2024, and it came with some minis and mini changes. Druid of the Claw and Swole Troll as new minis, both pretty sweet minis by the way. They reworked Mountaineer and had an event around that. They reworked Spiderlings and had an event around that. They released the first a little bit bigger balance patch, changes for 10 minis. And they did a major PvP rework. Only 1 honor rating, so you no longer play 3 leaders, you just play whatever you think is best and try to climb with that, and also rewards for top 100 on the ladder. They also promised a leaderboard. It was not implemented yet there, but it was implemented a couple of months later. So nowadays there's also a leaderboard in the game that you can see. They added Victory Road for PvP, which is, contrary to the name, it's a way to get PvP rewards even without winning any games, just for participation. They shortened the PvP matches a little bit, and they made the PvP modifiers change even more frequently, now every 3 days. Season 12 started on 5th of February 2025. It brought us the Priestess mini, and it also brought us the Priestess event that had mythic missions that were really hard, and a new event system that enabled those. So they finally had the full event tech in place, and they are now able to quite easily create these events. They can now use any map in the game, raid maps, dungeon maps, campaign maps, anything, and give it custom modifiers and use it in an event just by couple of configuration lines. So really sweet system. Also had Spiderlings event that was already before the Priestess event, so that was not yet the debut of the new event system. Then Love is in the Air login event. They nerfed the split leaders. Malfurion, Anubarag, Woken Doomhammer, Sylvanas all were hit by nerfs. All are still good though, but not as overpowered anymore as they were. And they allowed you to emote in co-op gameplay. Then we get into Season 13 from 19th March to 30th April, and that added the Lich King event, again with mythic missions and the reward Arthas Menethil as a leader, really powerful leader by the way. Also they started working on new difficulty levels for existing content, so we got the heroic Siege of Stormwind, and we got the heroic version of Siege of Ironforge, a little bit more interesting, a little bit more challenging co-op gameplay there. And they also added the friendly duels feature. So nowadays you can actually play PvP with anybody that you want. You can get a challenge code and then send the code to the other person and they use it and then you can play. It's always going to be even levels. And this basically now allows having tournaments in Warcraft Rumble, although there are still no replays and no spectator mode. So there are still some obstacles. But even level PvP with anyone you want. Now available in the game. They also doubled the Quest XP, and the Quest XP is now 9 times what it was at launch, which means that they must have really messed up everything at launch, because that's just a ridiculous difference. Also, raids and sieges give XP for all wins up to a daily cap of 50,000 XP, so if you want to grind XP by playing co-op, you can. They also had a really big balance patch for 23 minis. Some of those became actually pretty good after the patch. And now we're here. Season 14 started on 30th April. They released another balance patch for 15 minis this time, so they've been doing a lot of balance patches lately. And Heroic Molten Core was supposed to launch already, but it didn't. And now it looks like it's going to come in early June, so late in Season 14. And other than that, they have not announced anything for this season yet. As you can see, Rumble has received a bunch of content, but they are always late and they always mess things up a little bit. Like the Cenarion event was already late last year, Lich King event was late this year, and then Lich King event launched together with the Heroic Siege of Stormwind instead of launching at different times because they got it out as soon as it was ready. The Heroic Molten Core is now late, so everything is progressing just slower than I would like to see. For example, looking at the event system, they first added events in April 2024, and they managed to get a proper event system in place in February 2025, 11 months later, until events were so that they can easily be configured and they work well. Co-op, well, it was announced in November 2023, and it was added in May 2024, 7 months later. So this just keeps happening. Co-op, open queue, well, people have difficulty organizing it in guilds, organizing the time in guilds. Open queue was added 6 months after co-op was added to the game. Then the PC client, well, they got that out in December. That was 13 months after the game launched. And considering Blizzard audience, PC client launched together with mobile would have been really important. And then Scholomance, they added that in August after they had lowered the dungeon level cap in May and made dungeons much less relevant for endgame. So there is stuff coming. They have been releasing things, but they have consistently been running behind and running late and just getting everything out too late. So if we take a look at the really big content items that they have released. Siege of Stormwind, May 2024. Molten Core, June 2024. Moonglade, July 2024. Scholomance, August 2024. And then Siege of Ironforge, November 2024. And we haven't gotten any big items since. And much of that was already showcased in November 2023 at BlizzCon. I mean, Molten Core, Moonglade, we already knew about these back then, so I still remain baffled at what the 80+ people team did from November 2023 until September 2024, where a third of them were laid off. That's just mind-boggling. Fun anecdote, by the way, I recently reread an analysis that Navik had written about Warcraft Rumble back when it launched. They wrote it in December 2023, and they estimated then that the team is probably under 50 people and the development time was maybe around 3 years. try 80 plus in 5 years. So one Blizzard dev is like just 1/3 of a dev that Navik thinks a mobile dev would. The output that they expect from a mobile dev, Blizzard requires 3 times the workforce to get the same output. Yeah, I just don't know. But if we don't get those big content items, well, at least there's always events, right? Well, they have been doing some events, and they finally got the proper event taking place in February 2025, but it has only been used in 2 events so far. Priestess event, February 2025, Arthas event, March 2025. We didn't get an event in April. We might not get an event in May, even though now the tech is in place, so they would be really easy to do. But I just don't know. As for minis, we have gotten 25 minis over the course of 19 months. So we have gotten an average of 1.3 minis per month. Typically between 1 and 5 minis per season, although now it looks like season 14 is not going to have a new mini. So what's next? Where do we go from here? Blizzard has allowed the Rumble team to become smaller over time. From natural attrition, they have not been refilling the positions. And there's still all around 40 people in the team. And I mean, around 40 people, that's the size of a team that Navik originally thought created the whole game in 3 years. So that would still be definitely a team size that could keep the game going. And we could have events to fill any content gaps, but the game would also really need some of those big content items. And the last big content item we got was in November, so it's been a while. It's not as bad as the gap after launch, because there was a similar gap after launch, but the gap after launch was nothing, and now we have gotten a whole bunch of these smaller features. So they have still been releasing stuff. As for what they're planning, it's really hard to say, but that hasn't really changed because Blizzard has never communicated properly about Rumble, not even in 2023. They have never really told us, like BlizzCon. What they told us in BlizzCon is the only time we have gotten any information well in advance about their plans. The only time. BlizzCon 2023. After that, communications have been horrible. They have just been completely subpar the whole time, and that seems to continue. So they did give us stuff like events, stuff like CGs. They gave us all of that without any communications. They just suddenly dropped it. Okay, hey, here's a siege. Here's a Dark Moon Fair. We didn't get any proper communications about them. So it's really hard to say what Blizzard is making for Rumble next, because they have never told us. Not even when Rumble was brand new, they still didn't tell us what's coming. So, but that anyway is a review of everything Rumble has gotten after launch and the timeline. So that seems to be the level of output that Blizzard is capable of. Thank you for watching. Click like and subscribe if you enjoyed this, and a special thanks to all of my Patreon supporters, YouTube members and Twitch subscribers who make all of these videos possible.